Record reflect we are back in session. Parties and counsel are present, all members of our jury are present. And what's the exhibit number?
986, Your Honor. You have a transcript here, ma'am?
Yes.
And that was the visit that you had with the defendant on February 3rd, is that correct? On Super Bowl Sunday?
As far as I can tell so far, yeah.
Okay.
Did you meet with Raj? He came and saw me, went over some of the stuff about you, wanted to know what I wanted him to ask you and what maybe you should try to remember, things like that. One of the things is Provincial. The Provincial restaurant in LA, you know, that big massive waterfall that we did. It was a trough about. We need you to remember it, because that's the only way we can get a picture of it to the jury.
The bottom of page 1.
No, Michelle found it finally. You'll probably remember this. Provincial was the restaurant in Los Angeles where I built. We did all that. It was like 20-foot long trough. When you pick it up, I mean, it was just really long and top and everything. We went and installed it. They were supposed to pay me. They didn't pay me. They stopped payment on Joseph's credit card. You know, or they had given him an American Express for the down payment, like $32,000, and they took it back after we had already installed all the stainless steel. And then, because the reason we need you to remember that is because we now have a picture of it, of the finished waterfall that I built. And Michelle finally found it online. And beautiful waterfall. It's the biggest waterfall I ever built. It was huge. Yeah, it was, because it was like, I think it was 18 or 20 feet long. Exactly, and Provincial sandblasted across it. You remember that? Huh? Okay, you need to remember it, because when you get on the stand, they're going to ask you, do you remember this waterfall? Yes. And Joseph got stiffed for $32,000, and he was doing a lawsuit against them. But him and I had decided that if that lawsuit, if he lost, or if he didn't get the money back, that him and I would eat. We would, split it. I was supposed to give him back $19,000 over a period of time. You remember, I know you gotta remember that. Anyway, now you know. So yes, now you know. When you get on the stand, you're going to be asked specifically, do you know about this? Yes. You don't have to go into big detail. Tell Raj, you just need to leave me, and he will. He's good. Now, do you remember? Do you have any clue or any remembrance at all about how bad the reception was, phone reception, in the clubhouse? Really bad, huh? Okay. That's going to be an issue with you. You're going to be talking about that. Because when you called, or when I called you, and we're going to play an excerpt, probably while you're on the stand, of you and me talking, because I called you and I said, hey, do you remember what I did on the 8th? I think it was, or something like that. One of the days. And you said something, was that on Monday? Or, and we had a short discussion. But I lost you. You called back, lost you again, I called back. It was just terrible connection. Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? That kind of stuff. We're going to play that excerpt to prove it's very bad reception in the clubhouse. Okay, you were at home at the time. And you're going to be testifying about just that. That's very important because the February 4th call on February 4th, remember they were telling you Chase's truck was seen in Lonzo or in Joseph's? They said he wasn't home, he was, remember that? And you tried to call him 5 times during the evening. You wouldn't be trying to call him if he was home, would you? Well, no, that's what you said. But at that time, obviously you're being confronted by 2 detectives and you're flustered anyway. Don't hesitate to say that on the stand if that's the case. Because I know for a fact, now that I go back over everything, I was home. Okay. Well, you haven't testified yet. You're going to, and they're going to try to, that's not what you said before. You said, well, no, what they're going to say is, you said that he wouldn't be home and calling you. Well, I was being jumped upon by 2 detectives. Just tell them straight up. I didn't know what the hell was going on, and I was, right. Well, and that's just it. I'm bringing in my phone records and your phone records. I have them both. And I've gone through 9,700 phone calls, out of which there's about 145 where you and I are both at home calling each other. I mean, hitting the same towers. So I'm bringing that in to show, yeah, we would be calling each other if we were both at home. It should, because if you remember, I used to take the kids up to watch a movie. I used to go to the computer room all the time and do shit. You used to go to the movie. You used to take the kids to the library up there and to the pool. I mean, it was just, we were one or the other of us, because the kids always wanted to go over there. One or the other of us went over there with them because they couldn't be there alone. Why did you put money on there? I didn't ask her to ask you to. I didn't want you to spend your money. I will. No, I told her to ask Taylor. I figured Taylor has a few. She can probably spare 30, 40 bucks. That's what I asked. Because I need phone time. I'm down to $2 phone time. And I've been using $40 a week on the phone because I've had to keep in contact with Michelle and have her running, and it's been good. Have her bring it in. What we may end up having to do, I hate to do it to Ryan, but since he works at a wood shop or a wood store, we can bring him in as a wood and finish expert. We might. We can't, the family's not going to give it over. We don't know who has it. That family's not going to tell us who has it. We can't. They'll hide it. They'll trash it. They'll never take that table up. Never. Wrong. Prosecution doesn't want it. No, So he's going to be asking you about Provincial, about the phone, talk to him about the reception. I'm glad you remember the reception was bad, because every time I went to remember when I went to the computer room, you could never reach me. You know? Yeah, but rare. So that's important when you understand, because you would have been calling me half a dozen times trying to reach me, and then what happened, the way I now visualize that day happening, now that I step back and look at all the events, I came home, I probably took the kids over to watch a movie. You got home a little later, I think. It was a Friday. Thursday. It was a Thursday. So you would have been at the school. So I probably had one or the other of the kids, or I was You were trying to reach me for a time. I came back down to the house, laid my phone on the counter, phone rang, and you saw it. Obviously, I never remembered that phone call, ever. I still don't to this day. I'm sure we did, but to this day, I still don't remember it. I don't remember the call, I don't remember the discussion. I don't remember any of it. I simply don't remember that call. All I remember is the 548 call. That's it. So, what their big thing is, well, look, it's not on Chase's bill. That 828 call isn't on my bill. It's on Joseph's bill, but not mine. So, I went, the DA, so stupid, specifically asked, the DA put the AT&T guy on there, remember? Or you didn't see it? He put the AT&T specialist on. Not specialist, but to do the records. Specifically asked, if a phone rings and you don't answer it and they hang up before it goes to voicemail, is it going to be on the recipient's bill? No. Will it be on the other bill, the person calling? Yes. The DA did that to himself. And that's true. That's likely what happened. The phone rang, he hung up before it went to voicemail. That's it. Well, we have 40 minutes. What time is it? It's about 7:20 right now. You can be a few minutes late. Just on your way out, call him and say my visit ran late with Chase. You going to Riverside to see him? Well, I want to go over some of this stuff with you real quick. I know that I need to give. I'm trying. The DA's premise is that I left that evening at 5:48, went to Bonzal and came back. And at 9:32, I made a call from, they say, the 15 freeway going north. But my phone hit two towers near the 60 freeway. But definitively show if the towers are right, I'm going east on Van Buren, not even on the 60. Yeah. What would I be doing on Van Buren Boulevard at 9:32 at night? There's nothing over there. There's the 60, and Van Buren runs parallel, and then it kind of curves. It goes to Riverside. Well, at 9:30 at night, I wouldn't be going out there. What? What? You what? would you have taken Van Buren? But I called you. Yeah, never mind. I called you at 9:32 on your cell. And you were home. You didn't go anywhere that night. Because I called you. But I know that I didn't go anywhere. I didn't go down there. I had nothing down there to go to. I know that I would stay at home. I was just up in the clubhouse. Already? I thought you said 40 minutes. What's that? Okay, say hi, Raj. Go over all that stuff. Okay, thank you for the money.
The record reflects we completed playing the recorded visit exhibit 986.
So during that visit with the defendant, you went over several things that you were supposed to testify about, right?
Yes.
And those were things that you discussed with Mr. right?
Someone re-asked.
And that would have been after you saw the defendant that day and you had 8 hours at his office?
Yes.
Now, back at the time that all of this happened, around the 4th of February, you did not have a bank account with the defendant, did you?
February of what year?
2010.
No.
And you didn't have a bank account with him in 2009 either, right?
I don't believe so, no.
And in fact, when there were actually periods of time where the defendant didn't have a bank account at all, right?
That's quite possible, yes.
And he would give you checks that were made out from Mr. McStay to the defendant. He would give those to you to cash, right?
Yes.
And there were also times that Joseph would make checks out to you, right?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as 420A. Yeah, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And is that a check that you received from Joseph?
I believe so.
What do you got on the overhead? And this is the check I just asked you about, right?
Yes.
And this would be a check that Joseph McStay had written to you for $3,000 on November 1st of 2008. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you indicated at the time that you were renting a house, right?
Yes.
And was your rent due on the 1st of every month?
Yes.
Because we see down in the line that says for, and then it says Chase SOS, exclamation point, right?
Yes.
Do you know what that means?
The Chase needed it right away.
And how much was your rent at that time?
It was $2,500.
So would that be consistent with Joseph paying your rent for that month?
It's quite possible.
And you indicated that in 2009 that you did not have a bank account with the defendant, right?
I believe so, yes.
And he actually had, you indicated that you were familiar with his finances, right?
Generally, yes.
Well, you had a business together, right?
Right.
And you would do the books for the business, right?
Not at that time, no.
Who did the books for the business at that time?
I believe by then Chase was doing them himself.
He had a bank account at Union Bank, right?
Yes.
And he would keep you apprised of things because you would pay the bills, right?
For the most part, yes.
And you indicated, or you testified earlier, that there was a period of time where the defendant in 2007, I believe you said, played poker, right?
Yes.
You stated he bought a book about it and he had learned to play poker, and that was from 2007 maybe to 2008.
Approximately, yes.
And it wasn't, you indicated that it didn't last, in fact, you testified that the poker phase didn't last for more than a year, right?
Approximately, yes.
I'm going to show you some records from 2009. And this is the time, this is the address from when you all lived on the Wilkins Avenue, right?
Yes.
And these would be bank records that belong to the defendant, right?
Yes.
The exhibit number?
I'm sorry. That's exhibit 882. And so you recognize the address on there?
Yes.
And there wasn't a separate business account, right?
No.
So I'll go through some of these records with you because this is in 2009. And did you testified about his gambling. Was that a big problem between the two of you?
Sometimes, yes.
But that was only in 2007, you said, right?
Well, no. Well, I don't remember exactly what date it was, but it became more of an issue because he was entering more tournaments and he was being away for longer periods of time, so.
Okay, so the poker phase that you testified about yesterday that lasted only a year actually lasted for quite a bit of time, right?
Well, I don't know if it started in 2007 specifically.
Yesterday you testified
I
that it was...
understand.
Let me finish my question because the court reporter can only take down one of us at a time. Yesterday you testified that it was 2007, 2008, maybe, and it lasted a year, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and so in looking at some of these bank records, looking in February of 2009, we see a significant amount of money taken out at casinos, right? San Manuel.
Ooh.
You see the items that are highlighted?
Yes.
And then if you look down below into the areas that aren't highlighted, where I'm pointing to in the withdrawals, we see significant amounts of money being withdrawn at casino as well, right?
Yes.
Ooh.
And then going into the month of March, you see a significant amount of withdrawals at casinos, right?
Yes.
And you see them on the area below as well, right?
Yes.
And this is the time period as well where you also testified that the defendant was putting all the money back in the business, right?
He wasn't putting all the money back into the business, but he spent most of his money back in the business.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 877, which is basically a summary of casino withdrawals. You can just take a look at this. Does that look like it would be consistent with the level of activity of poker playing that the defendant did between 2010 and 2009?
I'm sorry, what do you mean by the question?
Sure. You indicated that he would enter tournaments and things like that sometimes, right?
Correct.
And that, even though you said yesterday that it was 2007, and looking at some of the bank records, do you think it extended beyond 2007?
Well, it went to 2009, so it could have started in 2009 to 2010.
And would it surprise you to learn the total of those amounts from casino withdrawals was over $24,000?
The objection is to pay as to what
Let me put this up on the overhead for you so you can see. This would be exhibit 877, the last page. Would it surprise you to learn that that dollar amount was over $24,000?
Not really.
You were aware that the defendant was spending that significant amount of money at casinos?
I knew he was making a lot of withdrawals at the casinos, yes, he told me.
He was just making withdrawals at casinos?
I don't know what was happening. What he told me was he was making some withdrawals at the casinos to finish business for the next day or whatever. And we had an argument about how much the casinos charge for withdrawals and stuff, and that was a point of contention with us again. He was spending extra money on fees for the withdrawals.
So it's your testimony that he would drive to a casino and take out money for business transactions?
Well, he would play poker, and then he, at some point, would need money for the next day or whatever, yes.
So I take it he wasn't winning then?
I don't know.
Well, you wouldn't withdraw money from a casino and pay those kinds of fees if you were winning, right?
objection argumentative.
And the fees added up to quite a bit of money, right?
Objection argumentative is the form.
And again, you weren't on this particular bank account with him, right?
No.
So how was it that you were aware of how much money and how much he was paying in fees when you would take withdrawals out of casinos?
I wasn't aware of how much money, but I know I went to the casino with him a couple of times, and when he did withdraw money, I noticed that the fees that they were charging were greater than ATM fees at the bank.
And showing exhibit 875, which is bank fees. Would it surprise you to learn that that total amount of bank fees was over $3,669?
Is that for casino withdrawals? Are you saying that?
Fees from overdraft fees and fees for withdrawals at casinos. This would be from January 20th of 2009 to November 5th, 2009, and again from February 3rd, 2010 to May 10th of 2010. Would it surprise you to learn during that time period that the fees for the casino withdrawals and bounce check items and things like that encompassed over $3,000?
Again, probably not, because I knew the fees were exorbitant and he was making withdrawals. So, I mean, that does seem a little more than I was anticipating, but.
And you are testifying, if I understand you correctly, that he would go to this casino and he would play poker, and then he would take out a withdrawal to do business the next day. Is that right?
Yes.
So showing you back to exhibit 882 for the month of February, we see a withdrawal at San Manuel for $107.99. This would be on February 17th. And another withdrawal for $107.99. And another one for $321. And then moving down below, we see two additional ones, one for $84 and one for $404. Do you see all of those?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would object that that misstates the testimony in the exhibit, which says the first year ATM withdrawals, and they are not for OCA or GCA.
Overruled.
So which one of those would have been for business the next day?
I have no idea. I wouldn't know.
So you wouldn't know if all of those were actually used for gambling, right?
Correct.
Looking at the month of April, same exhibit, we see withdrawals on the 27th. Do you see that?
Yes.
And there's some for $209, $415, $104, $204, and $404. Do you see those?
Yes.
And can you tell me which one of those would have been withdrawn for business the next day?
Sustained is calling for speculation and conclusion.
So when you say that he would withdraw money for business the next day, would it be fair to say that you weren't actually present when, with the exception of a couple of occasions when you said you weren't actually present at the casino with him most of the time, right?
Correct.
Because you had kids at home, right?
Yes.
And there would be periods of time where he would be gone for a significant amount of time, right?
Yes.
And do you know how much time he would actually spend at the casino? Or various casinos?
Objection, Vegas, at the time.
Objection sustained is calling for speculation and conclusion.
In
Or
two-
hearsay.
In 2009 and 2010, were you aware of how much time the defendant would spend at casinos?
No, not exactly.
Would he tell you when he was going to a casino?
Yes, usually.
So I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 889, which is it's off the San Manuel Towers. And if you can take a look at those dates.
I'm going to object that misstates the testimony of the tower at the San Manuel Casino.
And the testimony was the nearest tower to the center.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor, thank you. And you can take a look at that and tell me if you recognize, or if that would be consistent with his casino activity when his phone was hitting off the towers near the casino.
It's possible. I don't know exact dates or times, so.
Well, there's quite a few dates on there, right?
Right.
And it's several pages long.
Yes.
Would that be consistent with him telling you, you indicated and testified that he would usually tell you when he would go to the casino, right?
Right.
No foundation in speculation.
The objection is sustained on relevancy grounds and evidence 252.
Would he tell you all of those times that he went to the
No
casino?
objection, Your Honor.
Sustained on some grounds.
And were you aware of other casinos that he visited as well?
52.
Sustained is clear.
In taking a look at these exhibits, would it be fair to say that the defendant probably didn't tell you every single time he
Not
went to
granted
a
as
casino?
speculation.
Objection sustained is calling for speculation and conclusion.
And looking at the exhibits, were you aware of the level of money that the defendant spent at casinos?
No.
You know, the object actually the form of the question, whose facts on this?
Overruled, the answer is
would it be fair to say that that gambling problem probably contributed to some of the financial issues that the two of you had at home?
Objection, on the question argumentative, to faculty.
Sustain this case.
Well, we just went through and saw that, and you testified that the defendant spent more money gambling than you realized, right?
Objection, 252 at this point.
I don't know that he spent that money at the casino.
You're aware that there are withdrawals at casinos, right?
Objection, as to answer.
Sustain this case.
I want to talk to you about the events that occurred on the 4th of February in 2010. You testified that you actually got up that morning and you were with the defendant, right?
No, I believe he left for work.
At what point did you learn that he was supposed to meet Joseph?
Probably later in the morning.
And how was it that you learned of that?
We touched base and he said he was on his way to meet with Joseph for lunch.
And do you recall what time that call was?
I don't know if it was a call or if we met in person, but I just remember talking to him before his meeting with Joseph.
Okay, well, where did he work at that time? When did he go to work?
He was working out of Metro Sheet Metal.
And where was that located?
Alamani, maybe, I believe. It's out towards Baldwin Park area.
Are you familiar with it being in Azusa? I can't say that word. Azusa.
Okay.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
And so you're telling us that you think that perhaps you met up with him that day at work or somewhere around there?
No, I think it was someplace in between because he was on his way to meet Joseph and I was at the school or something. I hadn't driven out to Azusa.
Okay, and you don't recall whether or not it was actually a phone call or whether the two of you actually met in person?
Correct.
And what time was it that you said that he was meeting with Joseph?
It was around noontime, noon or 1. It was around the lunch hour.
Do you recall how many times you talked to the defendant that day?
No.
And do you recall what your phone number was at the time?
Yes.
What was your phone number at the time?
909-226-1197.
And the defendant at that time was 374-0102, right?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 439C. And ask you to take a look at phone calls on page 370 of that exhibit.
Is that, which phone?
These, her records or
These are the defendant's records. And that reflects the date of February 4th, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We have this, we can put this on the overhead, right? starting with line 9037. You see that?
Yes.
And that's a phone call between you and the defendant, right?
Yes.
Him calling you, right?
Yes.
And that's at 12:09. Is that right?
Yes.
So would that have been before the meeting?
I believe so.
And then we see right underneath that, there's another phone call between him and Joseph, right? That 949 number. And that's at 12:27. Do you see that
Yes.
underneath? Okay. And then moving on to the next page, we see another phone call that occurs at 12:28, where the defendant calls Joseph. Do you see that? Very top line.
Yes.
So they wouldn't have been having lunch at that time yet, right?
No.
Okay, and then we move down to the next call, which is Joseph calling the defendant. That's at 12:28 again, right? You see that?
Yes.
And that's a 5-minute call. So they wouldn't have been having lunch at that time yet either, right?
No.
And then we see another phone call between you and the defendant at 12:34. Do you see that?
Yes.
And did you talk to the defendant at that point?
I probably, I don't know.
You don't remember what that's about?
No.
And then moving down, we see another phone call at 12:52 where Joseph called the defendant. Do you see that?
Yes.
So they probably weren't together at that point yet, right?
Right.
And then underneath that, we see another phone call starting at 12:52. And that's from the defendant to you at, you see that one? 99043.
Yes.
And then that's followed by phone calls between the two of you. Do you see those?
Yes.
Go from 9041 to 9054. That should be. Do you remember what those were about?
I have no idea.
So 13 phone calls back and forth within a short period of time. You can't tell us what those were about.
Argumentative.
You don't remember anything significant happening on this particular part of the day?
No.
So you're very specific about what happened on the night of the 4th, but yet when you get 13 phone calls between you and the defendant, you don't recall what that was about?
No, because that's not unusual.
It's not.
No.
No, I'm going to object to the last series of questions. It assumes that there was an actual call there as opposed to just a call.
Oh.
Have this one for- I'm going to show you a chart that was made by Agent Bowles. Talks about the number of contacts between you and the defendant between February 4th and February 15th. You see that?
Can you get an exhibit number?
And
Is
that's,
that an exhibit number?
I don't believe it is, Your Honor.
Then if we would object to showing it to a witness without proper foundation.
Is it,
Agent Bowles testified to it.
is it, you have a discovery date stamp number or?
I don't think there's one.
It was in Agent Bull's report, page 85 and 86.
Still object, there's no foundation.
Sustained.
If we actually heard testimony that the number of calls between you and the defendant increased significantly in the month of February, would that seem to be unusual to you?
Objection, in fact.
It's speculation.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
If we heard testimony that the number of phone calls between you and the defendant increased significantly in the month of February, would that seem unusual?
Objection made, Your Honor, as to whether these are completed phone calls, missed phone calls, no pickup phone calls.
Overruled.
And it misstates the testimony, that was never the testimony of Agent Bowles.
Overruled.
Yes.
And I'm going to show you 988, which is, I think you testified somewhat about this yesterday in 988, and see if you recognize this.
Yes.
That's the homecoming apartments, correct?
Yes.
We're going to put it up on the overhead. And you identified yesterday where your apartment was, right?
Yes.
And so we see the arrow going from your building to the clubhouse. Do you see that?
Yes.
That was a relatively short walk, right?
Yes.
It wouldn't be far for you to just walk over to the clubhouse, right?
Right.
And in fact, when we measure it, it's 247 feet. Does that sound about right?
Sure.
Now, we were going through some of the phone records, and there was a series of phone calls between you and the defendant that lasted until right around 1. But you testified that you didn't recall what those were about, right?
Objection, assumes facts not there, that they're actual calls.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Sure. You testified that you didn't actually recall what the calls were about, right?
Correct.
And going back to that same exhibit, 439C, 9055, we see another call on February 4th from the defendant to Joseph's number at 1:01 PM, right?
Yes.
So they wouldn't have been having lunch yet at that point, right?
Objection calls for speculation.
And then right underneath that, we see again a couple of more phone calls from you and the defendant. Do you see that on 9056, 9057, 9058, 9059, 9060, 9061, 9062, 9063? You see all of those?
Yes.
Those are again calls between you and the defendant, right?
Yes.
And the time frame on that is from 104 to 158. Would that be correct?
Yes.
And do you recall him being at lunch with Joseph during that time period?
Objection calls for speculation.
During those phone conversations, did he ever tell you he was having lunch with Joseph at that point?
Not that I recall, no.
And again, you don't recall, I mean, this is a significant number of phone calls that afternoon. You don't recall anything about that?
No.
Those calls go until almost 2 o'clock, right?
Yes.
So you indicated that the defendant came home from work that day and it was still light outside, right?
Yes.
And this is February 4th, so it hadn't had the time change yet, so it probably would have been before 5, right?
Yes.
And you were home.
I believe so, yes.
Did you work at that time?
I might have been working at my son and daughter's school, but I'm not sure.
What time would school have gotten home?
Probably around 3.
So you would, if you were working at the kid's school at that time, you would have been done?
Yes.
And then what happened after the defendant came home on February 4th when he got home from work?
I don't know. I don't remember specifically what we were doing except for when the phone call came in.
So you don't remember any of the phone calls between the two of you that day. You don't remember what the defendant did when he got home from work, but you specifically remember that phone call.
Yes.
Objection argumentative.
Now, when the defendant came home that day, did he have some checks with him? And tell me about the checks that he had with him.
I don't remember if I saw them. I remember him saying that he had 3 checks from Joseph from the meeting.
3 checks.
3 checks, yes.
And this would have been on February 4th, right?
Yes.
Were you aware as to whether or not the defendant had a bank account at that time?
I believe you already said he had a union bank account.
Well, the Union Bank account closed in October, November 5th of 2009.
Okay.
So
Your Honor,
in
I'd object in
2010,
the form of the question. This is testimony.
I'll show you the actual records, 882. And is this the last date, or the last page of those bank records that I handed you? Is that the last page of the exhibit?
Yes.
And what's the last date on that record?
10/8/2009 to 11/5/2009.
And the account balance when that is closed out is what?
Total is 136.
Well, actually, that 136 that you described, let me put it up for you. The actual account balance, as you look at it, would be negative $511, or actually it's a zero balance, but the average ledger balance was negative $511. You see that?
I see that, yes.
If you can move it up just a little bit, the 136 that you referred to. The 136 that you referred to was the return check charges, right?
Oh, yes.
And so, were you aware as to whether or not the defendant had a bank account on February 4th of 2010?
I don't know.
Well, you indicated that he told you he came home with 3 checks, right?
Yes.
And did you see those checks?
I don't remember seeing the checks, no.
If he didn't have a bank account, would you be the one to deposit those checks?
I don't know. I may have deposited one, but I don't think I had, he gave me all 3. I don't remember.
The checks that that he told you he had, do you remember anything about the checks in specifics?
Oh, did you not hear the no?
Oh, I didn't. No.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, you testified yesterday about those checks. Do you recall that?
Vaguely, yes.
And that the checks were blank, right?
I don't believe I said they were all blank.
What was it that you said then?
I said it wasn't unusual for Joseph to give Chase blank checks.
So you said it wasn't unusual for Joseph to give blank checks to the defendant.
Correct.
In fact, I think what you said is a normal thing for Joseph to give Chase checks, right?
To give Chase checks, yes.
And then you also indicated that it was normal for him to give him blank checks. Do you
No.
recall saying that?
I don't recall saying normally give him blank checks, but he did occasionally give him blank checks, yes.
The two of them did not share an account together, is that right?
That's correct.
And you actually never saw those checks that day, right?
I don't believe so, no.
And he told you he specifically only had 3 checks?
I believe so, yes.
And do you remember talking to an investigator and telling the investigator that he didn't say how many checks he received?
I don't recall that conversation.
Would it refresh your recollection to review that portion of the transcript with the investigator?
Of course.
This is page 10 of the transcript.
Which one?
I don't know.
This is item 12.
They were all together, so it would be,
Yeah, October 10th.
The number up front, it has the,
it's page 34, 35, and 36 from the actual side page of page 10 at the bottom.
we got that. 59015.
If I can review, it was 34, 35, and 36, which are going to be these. This one, this one, and that one. Let us know when you're finished.
Could I get some light?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 10 at the bottom, so it's 30, 35. I got all of this correct.
Sorry, I have a question. on here, it doesn't specify if he was talking about the checks that day or, I mean, is it in previous?
And then we can talk about it.
Okay.
It's about noon, so we'll go ahead and take our noon recess. You can read that during the noon break and resume with that, and we'll come back at 1:30. Again, keep in mind the admonitions previously given to you, not to form or express any opinions about the case, not to discuss the case, and we'll see everyone back at 1:30.